Hello, today I'm gonna go over a basic guide for playing a Frost wielding Death Knight in patch 4 point pretty much anything. There's a lot of guides on YouTube that suck dick. I'm not saying they all do, but it's a good majority. So, I guess the first thing I'll go over is stats, then gear and reforging. Your main stats that you're going to be worrying about, your two primary stats that you want to always have right, are your hit and expertise. You always want to have 8% hit. No, like, you want to try to get it as close to it. I've reforged out all hit. I don't have any gems that are hit, and I'm still at 8.2, which is okay. You just don't want to have, like, 15% hit. That's fucking stupid. Next would be expertise. You always want to have 26 expertise out of 26, or whatever it is. 26. Your biggest DPS losses will come if you don't have your hit and expertise right. Doesn't matter what your haste, mastery, strength, any of that shit is. It's not going to matter unless you have your hit and expertise right. Next is your main thing. Your stat priorities, and this can change from person to person, and this is just me. A lot of people will say that haste over mastery and mastery over haste. I personally believe it's haste over mastery. So you want, I'll put this in the description just so you can see it, but it's hit over expertise over, well, strength is your number one, but if you don't know that, you probably shouldn't be playing this class. Then strength over hit, over expertise, over haste, over mastery, over crit. Crit serves you no purpose. You don't want to reforge crit. You want to get rid of any crit you have. So that takes us on to our next thing, and that was the reforging thing. So you want to reforge your crit or mastery, or even if you have to, haste, to make sure you've got your hit cap and expertise cap. That's your first priority. Doesn't matter what you need to lose. You have to have that. After that, if it has haste on it, like haste and crit, you want to reforge the crit out to mastery. You never want to reforge haste out if you don't have to. Haste is your number one stat that isn't strength, and mastery is a close second. The reason people will sometimes say mastery is, and I would only believe, they believe it affects your obliterates. Your mastery is going to affect your frost spells, which are Frost Strike and Howling Blast. Obliterate, from what I can tell, mastery doesn't benefit from it. So, in PvP, that would be different, but this isn't a PvP guide. This is PvE. So, I personally choose haste. I notice bigger DPS increases with haste over mastery, and so that's what I always stick with, and I don't really give a shit what you have to say about that. As you can see, I only have a 376 equipped item level. My gear is not excellent. I play this game casually, and when I play, I usually PvP, not PvE. But this is very easy. So, here's how your basic, and I'm not going to load up a meter or anything because I'm showing you how to play. Actually, let's go over spec first. This is my spec. Death Knight specs are generally the same, and just kind of changes from person to person. So the first thing you want to go into is Frost, and I always max out these three. I guess in PvE you don't really need to max out Icy Reach, but I do anyways. Don't ask why. Annihilation obliterates one of your main spells. 45% damage increase is excellent. Lichborn you don't need, and you don't need mount increased speed or anything like that. Endless Winter, I would pick that up. You probably need to get to the next tier anyways. It makes interrupting on boss fights much easier because you don't want to waste runic power on Mind Freeze. Merciless Combat, it makes it good. It almost makes your obliterate, frost strikes, and things like that kind of like a mini execute when they're below 35%. That's the best way I know how to put it. You're all about the runic power for your frost strike, so of course your howling blast, you'll be using that on your rhyme proc, so you know, good extra additional runic power. Killing Machine, this is the bread and butter of frost. Pretty much your auto attacks give you a free frost strike. Well, not a free frost strike, that's rhyme. It gives you a Frost Strike that has, or Obliterate that has no chance of not critting. It's 100% crit chance. Moving down, Rhyme. This is a definite must. It's not a whole lot of extra DPS, but it ensures that you're never actually going to have to put up your ice disease ever. It gives you, your Obliterates will pretty much give you free Howling Blast, which is nice. Pillar of Frost, this is your main like burst cooldown. I'll show you burst macros after all this. Improved Icy Talons, everybody loves an additional haste, which is why you'll grab that. This and gives you 4% strength, and when your victims take 4% increased damage. Hungry and Cold, the only reason you would pick that up, in my opinion, is to get down to that. Hungry and Cold's kind of a PvE spell, or a PvP spell. We won't worry about that. Improved Frost Presence. I see a lot of people don't pick this up. Personally, the increased runic power generation is a must. I don't know why you wouldn't get it. Then Thread of Thessarian, that's your main dual-wielding spell. It's what makes dual wield. And then Howling Blast is going to replace your Icy Touch. Glyphs, these are your 3 main glyphs that you have to have. Your Glyph of Frost Strike, if it takes 32 instead of 40, at 130, that means you could take out 5 full Frost Strikes rather than 4. Glyph of Obliterate, 20% increased damage. Considering it's one of your main spells, you'd be stupid not to. And you have to have this. It makes it to where you can use Howling Blast instead of Icy Touch. It'll apply your Ice Disease. After that, a lot of this is preferential. I use these AMS, for some boss fights where AMS would help you. It helps to have the extra 2 seconds. Hunger and Cold, if you ever need to use it for some reason, no runic power cost. And Strangulate, extra 2 seconds if you use it while they're casting. Death Grip, I would recommend Blood Tap. I mean, it's only like 300 damage anyways, but yeah. And then Glyph of Horned Winter, I would use that just because it's a good glyph. Okay, now, going into some macros, and I'll post these in the description here. These are macros that I urge people to use. You don't need to, I suppose. Pretty much what it's doing is it'll automatically, anytime you cast one of these and your Horn of Winter's up, it'll cast that along with this spell. So that's an additional 10 runic power every 20 seconds, which isn't bad. It's free runic power, plus you never have to worry about keep refreshing your, Horn of Winter. I use that macro a lot. This is also your burst macro. It's use your Pillar of Frost, you summon your ghoul, and because I have herbalism, I have it use Lifeblood. If you're an orc, you could have it use Blood Fury or Trinket or something like that, but I typically use Apparatus on my own time. I usually don't put that in with a macro. So moving on to the final part, other than gymming, which I'll go over after the rotation because gymming's pretty fucking easy. When you open up, you always want to have your diseases up. The best way to do that is open with an Outbreak. From there, you're going up with your Obliterates. Anytime you see this stuff light up, see, I'm casting all that. My Obliterate gave me a Rhyme proc. I'll always use that. I'm always keeping an eye up here on my diseases. You can get add-ons for that if you want. Pretty much using Obliterate whenever you can. Frost Strike is your runic power dump, and Rhyme procs whenever they're up. It's always essential to keep that disease up because you do extra damage when both your diseases are up. So to not put them up because you want to pad your meter for a second is just stupid. As you can see here, I'm using mixed scrolling battle text. It kind of makes it neater for your like KM procs. You can kind of get a better feel. I'm also, this isn't even for Death Knights, this is for all classes. You should learn to keybind. If you have to sit here and click your spells manually, then you're just losing out on DPS, because when you get into more difficult things, clicking becomes a pain in the ass. When you feel the need to, if you're out of runes, you're not getting much, you're losing DPS, You can hit your runic empowerment, or empower rune weapon, which will reset all your runes. Use your burst cooldown whenever you feel the need to. And that's pretty much just rinse and repeat. Frost Death Knights are not hard to play. I don't know how people can fuck them up as much as they do. I've seen some pretty embarrassing things. So now we're going to move up to gymming. Pretty much your meta, it'll be this thingy. 54 strength, 3% increased crit. You'll pretty much gym straight strength. There's not many exceptions otherwise. I have pretty much all straight strength gyms. Sometimes on your socket bonuses, you might want to change it a little bit, but I would hope you're intelligent enough to figure that out for yourself. And the last thing is you want Rune of Razor Eyes main hand and Fallen Crusader offhand. There's not a lot of variants for that. Like I said at the beginning of the video, I will post a link to my Armory page in the description if you want to look at my stats, gear, enchants, or whatever. That's entirely up to you. Other than that, if you have questions or you have constructive criticism as to how I play, feel free to mention that. If you have no proof to back up your claims, then fuck off. So yeah, enjoy.